All right, everyone. Thank you so much for joining us here on another edition of our Franchise Your Business webinar and podcast series. My name's Tom Dufour. I'm the founder and CEO of Big Sky Franchise Team. And before we jump into this, I'd love, if you have not yet, for you to subscribe to our podcast. So this will be repurposed on the Franchise Your Business podcast, available at your favorite podcast listening service. So feel free to subscribe there. We also have our premium podcast that we offer. There's premium and just in terms of the product that we deliver and how that's developed. There's no actual cost for you there. It's at Multiply Your Success podcast. And if you just like one central spot, say, Tom, these are just too many things to go and check out, please subscribe to our YouTube channel where you can get access to this live session, to have access to the video, as well as to the audio and over 600 webinars, podcasts, and other educational tools that are available on our YouTube channel, which is Big Sky Franchise Team. So with that being said, I would love to introduce you to Teri Moten, who's been a guest on our podcast and sessions in the past. And she, I love on her screen, she is a business problem solver. And that's what I just love about Teri. She figures out a way to make things happen. And she is an expert on AI. And I know that this comes up a lot, but why I'm so excited to have Teri on, because sometimes you get AI overload. Oh, okay, another thing. Someone's trying to sell me something. Well, what Teri has done is taken this idea of AI to say, well, how can I actually apply this to my business? Or how can someone, an owner that tunes in, a leader that tunes in, say, how can I actually use this for real in my business to be more productive, and stuff that might be more so than I know what I find myself sometimes using it for, just kind of helping with content writing or maybe ideas to kind of help brainstorm a little bit. So with that, Teri, I would love to turn things over to you to get us going.
All right, Tom, thank you so much. Thank you for having me on. I absolutely appreciate it. To everyone out there, I'm going to give just a quick little background on me and what you are going to get from today. And it's going to be very interactive. Tom and I are going to go back and forth, but I'm going to give you some really great nuggets that you, as a business leader, a franchise owner, a potential someone who's in business who wants to franchise, that you can walk away today and have implementable nuggets. So number one, you can probably hear with my southern twang, I am from South Texas. Again, my name is Teri Moten, and I help business leaders really be able to start implementing strategically AI into their organizations. Like Tom said, you've probably been inundated now over the last 2-3 years with AI this, AI that. Every other week, literally, there are hundreds of tools that come out. And I'm here to really help give you some ideas that are solid to help you start implementation. One of the things I was talking to someone about recently is that since COVID happened and we were all shut down in the pandemic, I think we have now a term that I kind of coined. I think I did because I hadn't heard it anywhere else. But we've really become professional consumers of education. When we were locked down, all we were doing was just listening to information. And I think we've gotten so used to doing that. We are in that a kind of analysis paralysis mode. We're just consuming information and not doing anything. So today you're going to do something. I look at AI through the lens that you do. I'm not a data scientist. I don't have an IT background. You're not going to hear tech jargon, but I'm an entrepreneur myself. I've worked with business leaders for 25 years. So when I look at AI, it's how is this going to affect the average, everyday, non-tech business leader? So that's what we've got there. Tom, the first question, I actually have a question for you, and then I'd like to start sharing some things.
Yes.
What are you hearing, especially in the kind of that franchise space, and those business leaders who are wanting to go into franchising? What are they thinking? What are they asking you about when it comes to AI?
That's a great question. It doesn't come up quite as much as you might think. And I think it's because so many owners and leaders we work with are enthralled in the day to day of leading and running a business. And so sometimes it's hard to see through the noise. Mostly what I get is they're using it, they, or probably their team members in a lot of cases are using it for a copywriting, which I've shared previously that they'll use copywriting or maybe helping with some marketing messaging a little bit, maybe brainstorming. But I think for many, when they've tried using it or implementing it, it hasn't gone quite as well as they had thought it was going to. I know we've in the past had a few clients over the last couple of years that have used AI to produce manual content for their business. And when we read through it, we said, well, this doesn't sound like your business that has been produced. And we can tell that they just used AI to produce some content that the content sounded great, but it wasn't actually relevant for their business. And therefore, we looked at it and said, well, we can't use this. This is not going to be used in creating any form of a manual. So now we have to go through and either edit it or flush it out and kind of start over in going through this and pulling that together. So
No, got it. No, and thank you. That makes perfect sense. So, one of the first things that I want to let the audience know is start thinking about AI, and I'm specifically talking about generative AI. Start thinking about AI being on a spectrum. And as you said, Tom, a lot of people initially, as you start using tools like, ChatGPT and Gemini and Claude and Grok, again, those large language models, when people start using those, it is typically as a what I call to do task assistant. So that's, writing the emails, proofreading, doing some social media captions. And I want people to understand, in my opinion, there's kind of three big areas on that spectrum. And I want to walk you through on here's how you start changing your thought process. Yes, you have the task assistant things that can be done. Kind of the next step on the spectrum is what I would call is kind of AI as a coach. And so people will ask, okay, well, Terry, what do you mean as a coach? So, for example, and especially relevant to your audience, many business owners I see are not very strong, say, in the financials of their business. How to understand financial documents, how to be able to read financial statements, what they need to be looking for. So you can use AI to be basically a financial coach to help you really learn and understand what are the important, how do I understand these financial statements? How do these pertain to me as a franchise owner or a franchisee or someone again who is wanting to franchise in this particular industry? And then you can use AI to help coach you and guide you. And again, it's that coach. It's great with personal development. Being able to be that personal development kind of coach for you that guides you, leads you, kind of gives you suggestions. The area that most people don't even realize AI can be utilized for is what I call, AI as a thought partner. And that thought partner is now where you're using AI to really be that it can be almost like whether it's a quote unquote like a silent business partner, it can be a sparring partner that really challenges your ideas. And this is one of the ways that I love it is because we're all defined just by our finite knowledge. We only know what we know and what we've been exposed to. But AI has, in my simplistic terms, access to all the information in the world, is the way I say it, all the experts in the world and kind of their philosophies and knowledge. And as a thought partner, you can then start using AI to challenge some of the things that you may know or you may not realize. So when people are starting to use again these LLMs, I want them to start thinking, okay, do I need it now to do again more of these tasks? Am I needing more of it to be a coach for me in what I want it to do? Or how can I get it to be again that thought partner where it really is kind of working with me, kind of a co-partner working with me? One of the things I want to show you, and I tell everybody it now, I'm a chat GPT girl. Just because ChatGPT was the first on the market. And that's what I got used to using first. I have also started looking at, and I'm, of course, looking at, okay, well, what are the other large language models? What do they excel in? And how can those things be utilized? And Tom, one of the first pieces of advice I would tell to someone, especially who's very new in trying to implement AI and understand AI, is find one, and it doesn't matter which, find one large language model that you like. And those, large language models that are out there, as I was saying, you got ChatGPT, you have Gemini, you got Copilot, you have Claude, Meta, which is Facebook. They also have a large language model that you can use as well called Llama. And then, of course, you have Grok. So find one that you like and start to be proficient in it. Then you can start looking at how do the other ones, how can these other large language models, what do they do that excel that can add to what I'm doing? Because you will never be able to master them all. And you really need to start mastering one of them. So, with what I'd like to do now is show a couple of quick things and walk through a couple of things in ChatGPT. And some of these things are going to be agnostic. You can do it, the thought process, you can do it across any of the LLMs. But for the audience who is actually watching the replay, what I'm going to do is share my screen because for ChatGPT, and if you're not using ChatGPT, again, ask the other models that you're using, can this be done? Three things you need to know right off the bat. Actually, might be four that I'm going to cover really, really quickly. First is with ChatGPT, most people don't realize whether you're using the free model or a paid model, there is a default setting in there that anything you're putting in there, ChatGPT is using it to train the model. You do not want your information training ChatGPT, and I'll tell you why. So let's say again, you're a business, you're getting ready to franchise, or your existing franchise or a franchisee. You've been working with ChatGPT, let's say over the last couple of weeks, just developing the best, Q1, Q2 strategy, and you're like, oh my gosh, we're going to take over the world. We are just taking over the world in our industry. We've come up with a great strategy. We've got the marketing messaging, and you cannot wait to roll it out. If you have not toggled off this setting, where again, it's not the information you came up with, partnering with ChatGPT, what can happen is this. When the competitor down the street is, they are brainstorming with ChatGPT and they say, hey, I'm looking to, roll this out in Q1 and Q2. I need some ideas. Give me some best strategy ideas for this. Because your information training the model, ChatGPT can literally serve up everything you worked with it on to your competitor. So you want to turn it off. So for the audience looking, and I'll walk through for those who are listening on audio, in ChatGPT, you're going to go to your settings. So you end up going to the profile and you're going to click on your settings. And it's really easy to get to. You click on your settings and you're going to scroll down to data controls. Again, just simply scroll down to data controls. The very first thing you see is it says improve the model for everyone. I assure you, anyone who's using ChatGPT and listening and going through this, my bet is about 70 to 75% of you have this setting on where ChatGPT is training the model using your information. So turn that off. First thing, again, right off the bat, turn that off. If you're listening to this while you're driving or something like that, when you get back situated, turn it off. For the other LLMs that you're using, just go back to that LLM and ask it how, and your prompting, ask it, how can I make sure my information is not training the model? And it'll walk you through if there's some settings or steps that you can take. So that's number one. The second thing, and this is also going to be agnostic for most of the LLMs out there, is when you're looking, and for those looking at the screen, and when you look at my screen, these are two very important buttons you need to start utilizing. First button is you'll see it's a microphone. So this is going to be in the prompt window. You'll see on the right hand side, you see this microphone. You hover over it, it says dictate. Now I want to ask you, Tom. Tom, do you use, and I know you use several different large language models, but do you use the dictate in those
I
models?
I do not. I know a lot of people like the dictate. Uh, now that I say that, I guess I have a few times, but most of the time, I'm sitting in front of my computer, typing in, and it's a little bit easier for me to clear my thoughts as I'm typing because I kind of pause and think about what exactly am I trying to ask. So I don't use it. I've used it a few times, but not often, I guess.
And that's okay. I do hear people say that. What I'm going to do is I'm going to actually push against you a little bit and give you some reasoning why, even if you are at your laptop or your desktop, why you should consider kind of using that dictate. I know we're used to, doing the speech to text when we're on the go with our mobile phone and we're doing the, texting and we're speaking it. But here's why you should consider, even on your laptop, using dictation. With dictation, and specifically ChatGPT, and all the models can do this, but with ChatGPT, when you do that dictate, you can free flow talk for 10 minutes. And people are like, well, I'm not, Terry, I'm not talking for 10 minutes, giving it a prompt. Not. But what you will quickly find is you will start doing that free flow talk, 2, 3, 4 minutes. And it's easy to get to that. Right now, the reason this is so important in how you communicate with your large language model, we are moving from the term prompt engineering. Again, if you've been using AI for any length of time, you've probably heard prompt engineering, and that's how you structure your prompt. And of course, the prompt is just the instructions that you're giving that large language model, what you want it to do. But and with prompt engineering, you hear 1,000 different ways. Structure it with, give it a role, give it a task, give it an output, and there's all types of formulations. We are now moving to a world of what's called contextual engineering. The models, these LLMs, have gotten so good in understanding our natural language and what we want when we ask it to do something or tell it to do something. It doesn't necessarily have to have that syntax, quote unquote proper structure. So here comes the reason you want to consider using dictate. Number one, we're lazy typers. At least I am. We're lazy typers. Number two, I promise I probably have undiagnosed ADHD. So I'm 53 years old. So there's that whole memory thing there. So, but if I start typing a couple of things, I'm thinking so quickly, I get, I type in a few words or a few sentences in my prompt, and then I have forgotten the direction that I was going. When you can speak it, you literally have the opportunity to just free flow talk. You don't have to worry about your personality. And Tom, you mentioned, you like to kind of have, like that clear thought process in what you're asking. Perfect. And that is not a problem. The thing you have the ability to do is it sorts out your thought process because you can literally ramble and you'll hear it when I'm doing mine and talking to it. I'll apologize. I am sorry for rambling. And it'll come back and tell me, Terry, you weren't rambling. I understood what you were saying. But the bottom line is the benefit for the audience is it allows you to get your complete thought out. You don't have to speak the king's or queen's English. You just simply free flow talk. And if you mess up as you're going through and you're talking to it and you think, oh no, I don't want it to go that direction. I want you to go another direction. You don't have to stop and re-record it. You simply just keep going and you just like you're talking to somebody and you just tell it, no, actually don't do that. I want you to start doing this. Think of it that way. But it allows the context back for that contextual engineering. It allows full context to be given. So that's the big benefit of using dictate. The other button that you will see in Chat GPT. And not all of the LLMs have this, but the other button that's right next to it is called voice mode. So it's literally, when you look at it, it's going to be now mine is orange because I'm a Texas Longhorn. So I had to have orange as mine. But you'll see, again, it's a circle. It's typically going to be a black circle that has these white lines in it. And with voice mode, this is, again, the new way we are going to be communicating with our LLMs. You have the ability to select a voice. You can do this with the free version as well. Don't think you have to upgrade to paid version for everything I'm telling you. You can pick a voice. There's about six to eight voices, various, you can have an Aussie accent or a Brit accent or American, whatever you like, or male or female. And now that ChatGPT will actually talk with you and you can have a conversation back and forth like you are speaking with someone. Tom, some people tell me, okay, no, Terry, that's a little bit too much. And I'm like, but you use Siri, so it's really not. But you literally can have this back and forth, and I'll tell you where it's great to use. Of course, hands free. But you're driving down the road and you want to strategize through something. You can have a strategy conversation. Click on that voice mode, and now you can again have this conversation going back. You're going to have a meeting with someone, and you want to do some last minute prep. You can click on that voice mode and say, "Hey, I've got a podcast coming up with Tom DeFore and Big Sky franchise team. I just want to do a little bit of last minute prep. What are the top three things based on his audience that I should make sure that they know." And again, you can have this back and forth conversation. So those are two big areas. And I'm telling you, across kind of regardless of large language model you use, this is how communication is starting to go with AI. It is going to speaking and getting away from the typing. Tom, so what are your thoughts just in terms of kind of that thought process of using, especially like that dictate, being able to use it to more so free flow talk and not have such structured thought process?
Yeah, I mean, I when I think of it, I have not used it in that capacity personally. I know a lot of people like that. Uh, I'm unsure on how I feel about that. I think that's been part of my hesitation is that it's I'm conversing with a computer, and I think while I think there's a lot of valuable information that can be gathered, I've put up kind of a guardrail for myself to say, well, if I start having a conversation with it, I might start trusting it more. And I want to be mindful to recognize that while a lot of the things it does, I've used these large language models to do various tasks, and some things I just ask to see what's it going to say in an area that I know stuff about, and I feel like I'm pretty confident in. And what I find is it might be 80%, 90% accurate on a lot of it, but there's a lot of stuff, small things that are wrong, and just wrong, or it's not even close. It's just I don't know if it's made up or it just pulled a source. It wasn't the right type of source. And so it's just a reminder for me to be cautious with it. So for me, that's been part of my caution on wanting to start having these conversations, and to also avoid the feeling of like as if I have this relationship with this artificial thing that's not even real. So that's been part of the guardrail as well, that for me, where I've been just a little more cautious and delayed on pursuing that.
I do like that, and I'm glad you brought that up because I want to talk about that. That has been one of the scary things that has been happening is as people are developing these literal, literal relationships with these LLMs, not everyone is equipped enough to be able to separate. Like you said, it's a machine. It's not your friend, it's not your therapist, you're not talking to a significant other. And so that is a great way to, to make sure you keep those guardrails around you. So I agree wholeheartedly. It's something that not everyone should be going off and using kind of more of this, again, speech communication with LLMs, and it's a whole different story. Don't get me on a rant when it comes to what it's doing to children, and to young adults who don't necessarily have that fully developed brain that can differentiate. Now, you talked about hallucinations, and I'm glad you brought that up because I do want to address that. You have to realize, okay, listening audience, you've got to realize these large language models, number one, they want literally, and here I am talking about, like, hey, it's my friend. No, they want to please you. You'll hear the term, you may have heard the term sycophant over the last year or two, but they want to please you. They want to give you like information. You have to be careful because remember, you are the expert. You have the domain expertise, in the area that you're talking to it, about. You have got to be you are the final judge. You have to put your experience around looking at, is what this LLM, the information it gave back, does it make sense? Is it true? Is it factual? You have got to, and especially when it comes to data, when you're asking it about data, you have got to fact check that stuff. You just can't assume, okay, my LLM told me, so it must be so. When you're using it, because you do have the ability to, upload, if it's spreadsheets or things like that, for it to interpret data, you can fact check it because it will flat out miss some stuff, overlook some stuff, and like Tom said, it will make up stuff. So in terms of hallucinations, what it'll do is it'll start citing sources that don't exist. But what I say, the term that I use is, I say these AI platforms, they say it so convincingly. It's like they've got some bass in its voice when it's like, yes, Teri, this is it. And it doesn't even exist. So you've got to start asking, okay, take me to the publication for this citation. And you'll see at times it'll come back, oh, good catch, Teri. This actually wasn't, a real citation. So you've got to push back and ask, where did this information come from? The other thing it will do, and Tom, you hit the nail on the head, because it wants to please you so much, it will just flat out, it's not going and giving a fake citation. It's, it's just completely making up information. That's where you have to really, remember you are the expert, and you can't just do audience, you can't just do a copy and paste of what it comes up with. And I want to show you one area in your settings. Again, I'm going to show you in Chat GPT, but you should be able to do the same thing in all of the other LLMs. You can start to customize it more for how you like to receive information and kind of put some guardrails on the parameters you want it to operate under when it's getting information from you. And so the way you do these, and it's called, custom instructions, where you do this, it's going to be back in settings. So we go back to our profile, we go back into settings, and we come down, and at least in ChatGPT, it'll say there's a personalization tab. And you can click on that. And a couple of quick things I'm going to walk you through is that, number one, again, with ChatGPT, you can even give it a personality. So, I selected, I wanted mine to have a candid personality. I don't need a cheerleader or anything like that. I wanted it to be candid, but you can have friendly and quirky and nerdy. You can have some different characteristics you ascribe to it. But this, in terms of custom instructions, you can tell it, here's how I want you to operate with me. So for example, I'll just give one example, one or two examples. One of the first things I said is, I want it to have a balance of professional expertise and casual, relatable personality. I came and I also said, I want it to be empathetic and understanding, but direct when strategy demands it. Now, here is how you can start incorporating, ideally, minimizing the hallucinations that can happen. One of the last things I put is I said double check and fact check all information, especially data, because again, I want it to eliminate or minimize. I know it's not going to eliminate, but I want it to minimize hallucinations. And I flat out told it, you don't know the answer, don't make one up. Don't lie. Just let me know that you don't know the answer. And so it will start telling me that, if it's going through and I may be asking about a strategy or asking it to pull some data for me. And it'll tell me, okay, Teri, I tried to find this, but because I don't know the answer and I can't find the data, I can't provide it to you. And Tom, it was really funny. Even just this week, it was fact checking me. I was putting together some information for a presentation and I pulled in a statistic for the presentation and I didn't cite it. And as it was going through and helping me refine the presentation, it said, now, Teri, do you have a citation for this statistic that you provided? Otherwise, I would suggest you not add in that statistic, or you need to soften it and not give an actual percentage. You need to say, about this many, or like over 50% and not say 52%. And I thought that was pretty funny that fact checked me. So use, again, whatever large language model you're using, go to your settings and start seeing where you can start doing different kind of pieces of custom instructions. And what goes along with that, listening audience, is remember, you still have to train the model. Now, you want to train it on your own terms. But what I mean is, if you were bringing in an intern, or if you were bringing in, a new employee to your organization, you are not going to just, right off the bat, you're not going to say, oh, come on in, Teri, here's your desk, here's your laptop, good luck, go get them. You're not going to do that. You're going to train them. So whatever model, especially your foundational model you might be using, you need to train it. And the way you train it is you do what's called a master prompt. You develop a master prompt. And you're like, okay, well, Teri, what does it mean? And how do I do it? Always, Tom, I'm always pointing people back to, the LLM you're using can help you develop that master prompt. But what it's going to go through is, and I'll give you the prompt that, that you can use. What it's going to go through is it's going to ask a series of questions. And let's say it's for your business, where it really gets to understand your business. So you're going to share things with it. And again, as much as you're comfortable, it's going to be things like your mission, your vision, who your target audience is, what your products are, what your goals may be, for 1, 3, 5 years, those types of things. But you're really going to start to train it so it knows, it knows your business. It is imperative, in my opinion, that to get a better output, you've got to have better input and you've got to have that appropriate training. And what you do, again, if you're using whether ChatGPT, Grok, Claude, or what have you, you simply go in and you start a new session. You start, again, a new chat, and you say, I'd like to develop a master prompt for my business. Ask me questions one at a time to get all of the information that you need. Then it's going to start to ask you questions to get the information. From there, you simply, once it has gotten all of the information, then you tell it, put this in a format that I can copy and paste and put on a Google Doc or a Word doc. Because what you've got to do is you want to get that information out. You want to get the master prompt out of the LLM environment, and you want to put it somewhere where it is editable. The reason you want to do that is because that master prompt information, like your business information, it'll change over time. You'll add new services, new products, different things, different pricing or what have you. So you want to go ahead and put it somewhere else. And where you use it is depending on the model you're using. You're working on something, you can say, okay, I am getting ready to do, Q3 and 4 planning. I'll chat GPT or what have you. I need your assistance in helping to strategize, whatever. And now you can upload that master prompt. So now it's kind of got a set of instructions and information about your business. But it's a part of that whole training process. And one of the final things that that I'll share is when you're using these models, and I rarely see people doing this piece that I train them on doing. We've got to move from using these models as a monologue where we're just, barking orders at it. Do this, do that, do this, do that, and treat it more like a dialogue. What you don't realize is if these models could ask you questions, which they can, and I'll show you, if these models could ask you questions, they would have so much more insight to be able to give you better output and better information. And the way you get them to ask you questions is you tell them. So whenever you do a prompt, kind of typically whatever the prompt is, at the end of the prompt, the last thing you say is, ask me clarifying questions one at a time. Simply ask me clarifying questions one at a time. And so again, why do you want to do that? Because remember, we know what we know. That LLM is not a mind reader. It can only do what we ask it to do. And it will understand so much more context. Remember, contextual engineering, it'll understand so much more context of what we want if it could ask us some things that it knows would help them give a better output. The important thing that I said as well, ask clarifying questions one at a time, because for a busy business leader that may only have a couple of minutes, they're doing a couple of minute session, in their AI, nothing more frustrating than you say, ask me, oh, Teri said, let me try this thing Teri said, ask me questions one at a time, and it rolls up 12 questions for you. You're like, Teri is crazy. I am never using this method again because I'm looking at 12 questions and I don't have the time. So what you want to do is, that's why you want to say, ask questions one at a time. So number one, you don't get overwhelmed. You can also, because it may have 12 questions for you, you can ask it. You can say, ask me clarifying questions, but tell me how many questions you have first. And it'll tell you, I've got 3 questions to ask you. I've got 7 questions to ask you. And then you tell it, okay, go ahead and ask me 2 or 3 questions at a time. Or go ahead and ask me all of the questions. And it will do that. The point is, start adding that to your prompt, the end of your prompt, ask clarifying questions. You will get, when I say like 100% better output in the information and the answer it gives, it's amazing the difference that it makes. Tom, do you have any other questions, or
Well, what
would you
I'd
like to
like
chat?
to, yeah, no, I appreciate the information you've shared here. This is, I think, super practical and just down to some information that just makes it easier to use these tools. And I know we've got some folks on with us live here. If anyone on the line, by the way, has questions specifically that you'd like to ask, just hit the raise your hand feature or type it in the chat box or the Q&A, and I can either ask Teri for you or unmute you so you can go ahead and ask that directly. But Teri, one of the things while we're waiting for some of those questions to come in, one of the things you do is you also train organizations and teams on how to use this for their business. So I'd love for you just to maybe talk a little bit about how you help companies with this and what an example of that might look like and how you work with companies.
Sure. And Tom, thank you for that. So one of the things is, again, many, companies, business leaders, the business owners, executives, the leadership team, right now you are being put under pressure, whether by, however you're governed, or just the competitive pressure of having to incorporate AI. And I know for a lot of people, it is a daunting task to figure out how to do it, because not only do you have the large language models, you got different just tools, AI software and tools, and you're trying to figure out, if I'm going to invest monies, we've got to see an ROI in where we're investing specifically as it comes to AI. So one of the things that I do is, now I am a certified chief AI officer, and just what that means is I do have a certification. It was not a weekend certification. It's a true MBA style with a capstone certification. I have several other certifications. I'm in and out of AI day in and day out. For businesses and for teams, I come in and help you really understand what it is, number one, that you're wanting to do. Number two, help you kind of start to put together and talk through what's the most appropriate roadmap to start getting some things in place, help with the strategy, and help start doing training for you. And I'll give you some examples of what that might look like. Typically, one of the first things we get in place, and leaders, you have got to know this and understand this, is having an AI use policy for your organization. My guess is that easily 70 to 80% of the listening audience does not have an AI use policy for their organization. A lot of times it's enterprise level that has it. Normally, small and mid-sized businesses don't. Why it is imperative, the reason you need it is because your employees are using AI. You might have even told them, don't use AI yet until we figure out what we're going to do. Telling you they're using it. And the term for it is called shadow AI. They're just uploading the stuff into their own personal Chat GPT and Gemini. And now just imagine the risk that you're at now when they're uploading proprietary information, customer information, pricing policies, strategies, information that's covered under an NDA, that you are now susceptible to lawsuit because it's being used in and most likely exposed because they don't know how to turn off some of the, again, they don't know how to toggle off those sharing parameters. And use policy is typically one of the first things we start putting in place. The second thing is, really looking at what needs to have AI applied to it and how can it be applied. Tom, you've got so many people now because automation is the big thing. So they want to automate like everything. Well, everything shouldn't be automated. And whatever you put AI on, audience, please understand this. Whatever you put AI on, it's going to amplify it. What you put AI on will amplify it. So if you add AI to a bad process, it's going to become a worse process. If you add AI to a process that's going well, it becomes a better process. And that's counterintuitive because we're usually looking for patches for things that aren't going well. So again, I help walk organizations kind of through those thought processes and then do training for the teams on how they can use specifically generative AI in getting immediate, and I mean literally immediate uplift in terms of the return on investment with time, with money of their teams. And often that's where it needs to start before they go investing money in tools, spending $10,000 on software. Get your team upskilled in how to use generative AI, one of these models, then start adding tools, if that makes
Okay.
sense, Tom.
Yeah, that's very helpful, Teri. Thank you. And while you were sharing that, we had a couple questions come in, so I'd love to get your input. So the first question that came in is that asks, someone was able to create their clone, like a clone business and a personal one, and how do you create kind of these clones or separate those out? And hopefully you understand what that means. I and can answer that.
Completely. In terms of clones, and that's a huge thing right now, and it's only going to get bigger for business owners, leaders, those in sales, you name it. You can use there's different platforms that are out there. And for those of you who are like, what are you talking about, a clone? So a clone is where you basically use an AI software that can it you literally you might record 2 minutes of you just talking, and you could be talking about the dog. It doesn't have to be about anything in particular, but you're talking about something. And so now it's starting to get what you look like, what are your facial movements, what are your hand gestures. So it starts to, number one, clone how you move and how you speak. Then you can start adding a knowledge base to it. So if you have content that you've done, if you have had, and Tom, I'll use you an example. Again, you can get the clone down for again, for your face, your body, how you move. You could upload various podcast or content you've got, all of your podcasts and things like that. So it'll know your voice, how you talk, how you speak, not only in terms of just how you physically speak, but again, get that knowledge base you have. Now, for a business owner or for a team, here's where it comes in handy: is that clone can be used, number one, whether it's on your website. So when people now come to your website and start asking questions, it's kind of part of the sales process. They start asking questions, then the clone can start answering some of those things. And instead of just being a chat bot and just kind of going back and forth and getting where it's typed out the information to provide, say maybe to a prospect, it actually has that person, say you, Tom, is popping up on the website and saying, hey, and you do need to disclose it, of course. Hey, I'm Tom's clone, and or not necessarily clone, but I am Tom's counterpart, and here's the answer, one of the answers, to your questions. And then you can, follow back up with it, or we'll follow back up with you for more detailed information. It's just a way to help streamline processes. And also be able to put out more content, because you're seeing more content creators use clones to get even more content out, because you can also give it a script to use. And that clone, again, it'll go through that script. It looks like you, the mouth moves like you, and all of that type of thing. So in terms of what do you use for it, one of the things you can use that I recommend is a platform called HeyGen. That's HeyGen. HeyGen is probably one of the better ones that's out there to be able to develop a clone. And if you want to do like a voice clone, the voice that's out there, the voice platform that's used really, really well is called 11 Labs. 11 Labs. But that's how, again, high level, how you can make a clone and how it's used.
That is very helpful. Thank you so much. And next question that came in here is, as it says, as far as using this AI as a coach, do you need to go into settings or set up a certain mode for the coaching, or is there a master prompt to help create what you're seeking?
Great question. You don't have to go into settings to get it set up to kind of go into that coaching mode. You simply tell it, you know, ways to do it. Number one, you say, I'd like you to now, act as a coach to help me do, again, if it's, really understand the, financial statements, or I'd like you to act as a coach. And I'm going to tell you where a great one is, especially today, is act as a coach to help me understand how to be found in AI platforms as the preferred business for my industry. Because from a marketing standpoint, yes, we've been used to 20 years of doing SEO, but now you need to be found on the large language model platforms, because people are starting to go there and ask ChatGPT, ask Gemini or Copilot, who should I go to for, roof repair in my area? And there are certain strategies that you use to do that, to be found, that's different from SEO strategies, but that's a great way to be coached into what it needs to do. So you simply prompt it, I'd like you to be, and tell it to be the best coach in the world, because you don't want mediocrity. So I literally tell it that to be the best coach in the world. And let's say the roofing example, to for my roofing franchise to be found, you know, all the time in these AI platforms in the Augusta, Georgia area. The other thing you can do is, and I'll give you the example for ChatGPT, and I know Gemini has it as well. In ChatGPT, when you are in that prompt window, there's a plus symbol on there. If you click on that plus symbol, and what I'm gonna do, and I know just for sake of time, I'm gonna be really, 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 really quick. I'm gonna just share so you can see it. Here in ChatGPT, you can go to this plus window. You click on that, and you can come down. You end up for this. You end up hitting more. You see the study and learn mode. I know that Gemini also has a study and learn mode. You, what I call activate it, you turn study and learn mode on. Most people think, oh yeah, that's great for the students and for my seventh grader. No, it is great for you too as a business leader. And now you tell it what you're wanting it to like coach you on, or what you're wanting to learn. And it will literally kind of develop, as it's coaching, it'll put together a lesson plan for you so it can coach you. And as part of the prompting, you end up giving it as well. And again, you say, I want you to be the best in the world coach to help me in my roofing franchise in Augusta, Georgia, to always be found and recommended in.
Oh, Teri, I think we lost you there for a second. Can you hear me? Oh, well, at least we know it's live, folks. Hang tight here for a quick second here. Let's see if Teri's going to pop back. Maybe just an internet glitch. Her screen is still up. So, Teri, if you can hear us, we cannot hear you um, on this here. Uh-oh. Oh, there you are. Hey, Teri, we lost you for a minute.
No problem. I just wanted to make sure that the audience knew they could use study and learn mode either in ChatGPT or Gemini, again, to learn the things they need. And it can act as a coach through that study and learn mode.
Great. Well, Teri, as we bring this to a close, how can someone connect with you? Do you have a website or an email, or what's the best way for someone to get in touch if they say, Teri, this sounds really cool. I want to talk to you more about some of my needs.
Absolutely. And one of the things is for your audience, I put together a special resource guide that I would love for them to have. It's specific for the franchise industry. So, number one, they can get that resource guide by going to the following site. It is bit.ly /franchise growth with AI. That's bit.ly/franchise growth with AI. I've got some prompts, some information that's really going to help them think about AI on that spectrum for them as a franchise leader or a business leader. If they want to also reach out to me, I have a number of resources and that shows my trainings. I do a lot of virtual trainings, a number of them free. They can go to, it's also another bit.ly link. They can go to bit.ly and it's Teri Moten, TeriMoten, bit.ly /TeriMoten. They can, again, pick up some free resources there, follow where I'm doing training, a lot of them virtual, and they can also connect and we can just have a complimentary discussion, kind of an AI insights discussion on what AI can do for their organization.
Well, this has been fantastic, Teri. You've shared some great resources. While you were sharing that, I just typed it in and I downloaded that form myself. I'm looking forward to reading it. So I'm already on your list now. I love it. If I wasn't already, hopefully I already was. But thank you so much for your content. As always, just another great great piece of information. And for those of you, as we're closing out here, just a reminder, please subscribe to our podcast, to the webinar, and we would greatly appreciate a review, rating. Just, it goes a long way. So please make sure you do that. And for those of you that are tuning in and we haven't had a chance to connect with, please feel free to connect with us at bigskyfranchiseteam.com. Teri, this has been awesome. Thank you, everyone. Have a great weekend, and we'll have you back next week.